Christ is risen. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Nice hallelujah. Well done. So a Sunday school teacher was leading her first grade class in a lesson on Easter. And looking out of the class, she asked, "What does it mean that the stone was rolled away from the tomb?" To which a young boy raised his hand confidently and declared, "It means that Jesus is on the loose." When we read Mark's resurrection story today, you might have noticed it feels a little incomplete. After the women are told to go and tell what they saw, trembling and frightened, they say nothing to anyone. And what makes it seem incomplete is not that they ignore their instructions, because let's face it, how many of us would be quick to run around spouting tales of resurrection? But rather, what makes it seem incomplete is that we are all here. So someone somewhere down the line must have spilled the beans. And of course, someone somewhere did. Another person that has seen and heard everything that Jesus has done and said, someone who has heard all of Jesus' predictions and watched them unfold, someone who listened to the world-altering news of the tomb and was privy to the marching orders of go and tell. You. Mark in his gospel writing knew the truth, and by the very nature of the story he tells, he invites you to know it too. That Jesus is on the loose. This is not the end, but only the beginning of something new and powerful and holy and right. And oh dear God, the earth just tilted on its axis and it's not going back. And you sitting here now, right there in that chair, you are part of what is going to happen next. You are part of the living resurrection. And maybe you think, well, it's a good thing Pastor is talking to the guy in the chair next to me, and he can take care of this whole living resurrection scenario, because it sounds a little like too much of a burden to me. Or sometimes I can barely bring myself to believe it even happened. Most days I can hardly get my own life in order. Except the thing is, I am talking to you. In all your messed up, uncertain, busy, weirded out, imperfect mess, I'm talking to you. Because this story isn't waiting for someone better to come along, for someone who has everything figured out, for someone who knows where life is taking them, for someone who believes it all every day, all the time. No, this story isn't waiting. It's happening now, in spite of us, because of us, in the midst of us, within us, around us. And you are an integral part. Resurrection is not something that happened. It is something that happens daily. The resurrection is not just up in the clouds. It's not a one and done affair. The resurrection of Jesus, meaning the redemption and liberation of this world, is grounded in the here and now through the very blood and life of Jesus. God so loved the world that God left heaven, came to us to light the way, to be anchored in our reality and to invite us into the greater understanding and hope, into a divine love, into a resurrection truth. For God so loved the world, he was killed for it. A reality grounded in the truth that even in that darkest, most painful moment, God still loves the world. A reality that shatters the inevitability of death and turns brokenness into pieces of possibility to create new beginnings. This is our reality. And why? Because Jesus is on the loose. Now, even when the world around us says no, and it does again and again, and tries to convince us that death and indifference will win out, resurrection is still happening. Remember, God created a world where the seed dying in the ground brings about new life. That is resurrection. The flowers, well, those are just the results. The resurrection did not happen in the empty tomb, but rather it defied and developed directly in the face of death. The resurrection is the affirmation and assurance that God holds life, all of life, from its beginning to its end, which for God is simply a new beginning. All those places where destruction and indifference seem to win, where winter thrives and hope seems shaded and impossible, in Jesus' death and entombed resurrection, God says, this is not the end. It is not enough for me, and it is not enough for you. I will redeem it. I will restore it. I have already proven that there is nowhere I refuse to go, no one I refuse to love. And we may not always see it. We may not always understand it, but God is here. There is no beginning or end. There is just always God. God is always, and not even death can stand in the way. And when that tomb was discovered empty, we became a part of the fullness of the resurrection. We are the witnesses. You are the witness. We witness to the declaration that there is more to this world than we think we know. We witness to the truth that God does not leave us. We witness to the proof that God's love is too big to fail. We witness to the promise and the warning that Jesus is on the loose. We witness to the resurrection because Christ is risen. Alleluia and amen.